I've been talking about this for weeks, and it seems like they went on deaf ears because only now are the markets actually saying, oh, this tariff stuff might be really devastating. So what might happen? Well, tariffs could be deemed legal or they could be deemed illegal by the Supreme Court. Now, here's the devastating piece of this. If they're deemed illegal, well, we're going to have to refund or figure out a way to give back up to $215 billion back to these countries that paid the tariffs or the companies or however that works. But folks, we already don't have the money because we have a deficit at $38 trillion. So what could happen? Well, what this might do, and I know I was a broken record from this morning's video, but this news could really send the bond market in a tizzy. So here's what might happen. I'll give you two scenarios. Okay, so let's go through this and understand, well, if the Supreme Court says they're legal, what would happen? But then what would happen if they're deemed illegal? Let's get over to it. So here's what really controls the markets right through here. This is the bond market. Okay, so the reason why I brought this up is this is where everything's going to happen. If we don't have enough money, we're going to have to issue more bonds. What's going to happen to this? Well, let's break it down. If you have to issue more bonds, we're going to flood the market, especially $200 billion worth. What would you expect that price of the bond to do? Drop. Okay, so what happens when bond prices drop? Rates go up. So since the Federal Reserve cut rates last week, 5 days ago or a week ago, Fed cut, what happened? Went down all that. So when the price goes down, rates go up. We're recovering a little bit today, which is great news. But tomorrow when the Federal Reserve or the Supreme Court rules, it's going to determine how many bonds are actually hitting the market. Now, if this is deemed legal, I think the markets are going to go, whew. Because what's going to happen is a lot of this money that's being brought in from the tariffs to the tune of 200, maybe 300, maybe 400 billion a year is going to offset our national debt. Well, what that's going to help is going to say, okay, well, now we don't have as much debt out there, and we also have the government or the Federal Reserve they stopped quantitative tightening, meaning they're not selling bonds into the market. So this would be fantastic news for the bond market. Bonds on treasuries and also the mortgage bonds. So how does all this work? Well, let's go back to the bond market once again. As the price of the bond goes up, rates get better. Okay, so let's deem this tariffs are deemed legal. Well, you're going to have the market saying, okay, this is good news. Our deficit's going to go down. Maybe the risk premium that's built in between the 10-year Treasury and mortgage rates shrinks. All that means to you guys out there is mortgage rates would get better. So tomorrow's ruling by the Supreme Court is going to be huge when it comes to these things over here. How do you protect yourself if you're a homeowner or home buyer?